Hi, this is Jordan. This month's XDA Developer TV is brought to you by the Samsung Smart App Challenge 2012. Enter for your chance to win your piece of over $4 million in cash prizes by clicking the banner at the top of xdadevelopers.com or by visiting developer.samsung.com. Let's go ahead and get started. It is Monday, May 21st, 2012, and let's go ahead and do a quick recap of what happened over the weekend at xdadevelopers.com. This weekend turned out to be a bit of a banner weekend when it comes to the Samsung Galaxy S3. We had quite a few stories coming out related to it. First and foremost, XDA Elite recognized developer Chainfire came out on Friday and mentioned that he had gone ahead and rooted the Galaxy S3, even though, again, not yet released, and he didn't even have his hands on it. From reading through the article and seeing him talk on IRC briefly, it looks like he didn't have to do a whole lot to actually make this happen. He just packaged up the stock kernel with ADBD that was forced into an insecure mode, and Super SU was installed manually. So basically just a couple of steps. It probably was a little bit more complicated than that, but he does make it seem very simple. Going hand in hand with our first story, this weekend XDA recognized developer Ferriob has released the official stock firmware for the SGS3. The firmware itself is completely carrier unbranded. It's based on Ice Cream Sandwich version 4.0.4, and of course it does have that new version of TouchWiz on top of it. And of course, going along in that same vein, now that the official firmware has been released and it has been rooted, someone has gone ahead and taken the S voice out of it, which is essentially the you talk to it and it does stuff for you, a personal digital assistant kind of thing, sort of like, and I hate to say it, the fruit phone that shall not be named's version of Siri. Well, a couple of guys from the XDA forums, XDA senior member Xaner Zij and XDA senior member Dolce De Vinci have shown that they can pull the APK off of it and make it work on other devices. Now, while it may not work for your device, and it probably will not work on your device unless it's running Ice Cream Sandwich or at least an Ice Cream Sandwich ROM, and after reading through the article a little bit more thoroughly, it seems that a lot of devices that are not specifically running Samsung ROMs may not even be able to run it at this point as well. One way or another, it is very cool to see that get pulled off of this unreleased device and made available to the general public in one way, shape, or form. And of course, how could we talk about the Galaxy S3 and all the stuff that's happened with it this weekend without mentioning that the first custom ROM has been put together for it as well. XDA recognized developer Indie : has basically taken the stock firmware, pre-rooted it with Chainfire's kernel, deodexed it, and wrapped it all together, and they're calling it Omega ROM. Of course, it is untested because the ROM developer does not have a Galaxy S3 yet, but one way or another, it is very cool to see this much development going into a completely unreleased device. If you do have a pre-release model and you want to try out any of these things, I highly recommend going over to the forum, reading through it, and just seeing if it works for you. And sort of along those same lines of trying things out for yourself and seeing how they work for you, we've spoken before, I think, about the Samsung Galaxy S2 and some of the leaked Ice Cream Sandwich ROMs that are available for it. Well, apparently there was a bug in some of those Ice Cream Sandwich kernels, not just for the Galaxy S2, but those that are based upon that. XDA Elite recognized developer Entropy512 has made us aware that most of these Samsung-based devices that are receiving leaks have this bug in them, and it's actually a bug in the Ice Cream Sandwich kernel that leads to the /data partition in the eMMC storage getting corrupted. Normally something minor going wrong is not a huge deal, but when something in eMMC storage gets screwed up, your device gets bricked and there is no coming back from that. So if you have an Epic 4G, a Galaxy Note, a Galaxy S2, or the Korean SHWM250 SK or L, basically any of those things, if you're using an Ice Cream Sandwich ROM, you may want to take a look at some of the threads. I'll have a link to the article on the portal that you can take a look at and just see if your device is affected. And actually, speaking of trying out things that may brick your device, Motorola announced a while back that they weren't going to be updating the Droid X2 to Ice Cream Sandwich. That's a bit of a bummer, but it is, slightly older hardware, I suppose. However, an extremely early alpha of CyanogenMod 9 is now available for the Motorola Droid X2. Of course, you've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and data working, with a laundry list of things that aren't working yet, such as the camera, which we're seeing on a lot of Ice Cream Sandwich-based ROMs. MMS is flaky, graphics memory is flaky, data usage monitoring doesn't seem to work correctly, and Chrome Beta just doesn't work on it as well. However, one way or another, this does say a lot in terms of community support for a device that's no longer manufacturer supported. So if you haven't already, head on over to the forum and take a look at XDA recognized developer Dragon's Killer's thread and see all of the great work that he's doing in terms of getting CyanogenMod running on the Droid X2. And the last thing I thought I would mention, and as it turns out I've mentioned quite a few things already, but one more won't hurt. This weekend, XDA Elite recognized developer and XDA TV producer Adam Outler released a video called Pro Tip Number 2, Wireless Mount and Shell. In this video, he demonstrates quick SSHD and SSH droids so you can see how to mount your device and you can mess around with the shell on it without actually having to wire it up to your PC. So like I said, if you haven't already seen it, I definitely recommend taking a look at it. As always, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button down below. If you want to be updated whenever we put out new content, hit the subscribe button at the top of the page. That's all I have for you today though. As always, my name is Jordan, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.